So tonight I want to talk about love, specifically self-love, and how I learned to love myself. I am a firm believer that it is more important to love yourself than it is to love anybody else, and that it is actually extremely hard, if not impossible, to love anybody else without loving yourself first. It took me about 23 years to learn to love myself, or to start even realizing that I should love myself. I went on a vision quest into the Australian bush for 3 days with nothing but water and a sleeping bag before I actually learned to, before I realized that I was supposed to actually care about myself. It was to get a vision, but what actually happened was I ended up learning to love myself, or realizing that I was somebody worth loving. And I think it was because it was the first time I was ever away from everyone for an extended period of time. And I only had my own voice in my head for 3 days. I didn't have anything to write with. I didn't have anything to read. I just had myself for 3 days. And in those 3 days, I realized that I was being super, super harsh on myself in ways that I would never be harsh on any of my friends. I realized that we only see what people are willing to show us. We only allow ourselves to really share with people what we're comfortable with sharing. And so we don't see what's going on in other people's heads, what they're dealing with on a regular basis. We're just seeing what they're choosing to project to the world. I was convinced that people only liked me for the things that I gave them. I understood why people liked that, but I didn't quite understand why people liked me. I thought that me was such a ridiculous thing because I wasn't perfect. Like, why would anybody love me if I wasn't perfect? If I stopped giving everybody back massages, I was convinced that nobody would like me anymore. You know, if I wasn't wearing low-cut shirts, I was afraid that people wouldn't like me anymore. Going into the bush and being alone with myself for a while, I really started to realize that I'm actually a pretty interesting person, and I'm actually somebody who has quite a lot of good traits, and that I get up every morning and I try to be a decent human being. I'm not going out trying to piss people off. I'm not going out trying to swindle people or lie to people. I get up every morning and try to be the nicest, kindest, most generous person I can be. And this doesn't mean that I always am kind or generous or nice, but it means that I'm always trying. And I always forgive myself now when I fail and resolve to do better next time. That was kind of the moment when I realized that I really had a lot to offer, and that if I knew myself as somebody else, if I took all the qualities that was in me and put those in a person right across from me, that I would probably like that person too. And so it just became inconceivable to me to hate myself for things that I'm sure that everybody else is struggling with, and just nobody ever talks about because they're afraid of being judged, or that they're actually alone. And I think a lot of people are really afraid of being alone, and and being judged for being who they are. That they're the only person who's ever felt this or that, and that you know, if the world really would listen to their thoughts and like knew how crazy they were, that nobody would ever give them the time of day again. But I think that we're all a bit crazy, and I think that we're all a bit ridiculous, and it's kind of awesome, you know. And so yeah, so that kind of started my looking at myself in a different way. That was the first steps towards my self-respect. I had a friend who, every single time we watched television together, he would listen to the advertisements and he would respond to whatever they were suggesting with, "Don't tell me what to do." So you know, it would be like, "Drink beer because you'll be sexy," and he'll be like, "Don't tell me what to do." Or it was like, you know, "Buy this car and your wife will love you." And it was like, "Don't tell me what to do." And it made me realize just how much we actually get told on a continuous basis that we're not enough and that we need to change our behavior to be something else. I started doing that not necessarily loudly, but I started doing that pretty much everywhere that I went. Like anytime that I was reading something, anytime I was watching television, anytime I passed by a magazine or an advertisement on the bus. Just don't tell me what to do. Just assuming that they don't actually know better than I do. That they were trying to sell me something and keep me paranoid to keep selling me something. Because if we're not enough, then we do whatever we can to hide that and to try to be enough. And so if people are convinced that they're not pretty enough, then they buy a lot of makeup so that they can cover that up so that they can be pretty. If people feel like they're not thin enough, then they go out to gyms and they spend a lot of money and a lot of time working out so that they can be fit, so that they can be skinny, so that they can be loved. And so the more insecurity you have, the more vulnerable you are to being guided, to being something other than who you really are and who you really want to be. So when I started to love myself, I stopped caring as much about what everybody else thought and started caring a lot more about what I thought. And it changed my relationships quite dramatically. The relationship that I had after I started loving myself was way more intense and wonderful than any relationship that I'd had before I started loving myself. And it was a much more honest relationship because I was able to really have a sense of what I brought to the table as a girlfriend and what I wanted out of a boyfriend or out of boyfriends or girlfriends. And so it was really an amazing feeling because all of a sudden I had all this love that I could direct at a lot of different people, and my partner or partners had their own things as well, that they knew that they were worthwhile. And loving myself has really changed the way I look at relationships because I have all this love that I'm generating from me and from realizing what I have to offer. And so when I know how much I love myself, I know how much love I have to give other people. And so it becomes less oh, well, I need this person to love me because I need them to validate me. I need them to, be my existence and tell me how pretty I am and tell me how wonderful I am and tell me how much I take care of them and how they can't live without me. In fact, if somebody tells me now that they can't live without me, that's like a really big red flag for me because I want them to live without me. I want them to be a complete human being because I'm a complete human being. That doesn't mean that I'm a perfect human being, but it means that I am a well-rounded individual who knows what she wants out of life. And I want a partner who is the same, who is a complete person, who doesn't need anybody else to be happy, but is happy within themselves. And then from that point, you can meet them on an equal playing field. And it's not, I have to be with you because I can't live without you because you complete me. It's, I love you because I see myself in you and I see that I reflect you as well. And we inspire each other to grow because we both know that we are looking to be the best versions of ourselves. It's a slightly different way of looking at love. The poly community, polyamorous community calls it compersion as opposed to jealousy. It's the idea that you care so much about your lovers that you want to see them happy, always, no matter what. Even if that means being with somebody else, it's okay because it means that you're just looking for the best possible version of yourself and for the best possible version of your partners. And so anybody that you love becomes somebody that you deeply, deeply desire to just be the best version of themselves. And you trust that they know what is going to be best for them. And if that's with you, awesome. And if that's not with you, great, because that then frees you up to go and do anything else that you want to do. And for you to look for somebody else who's going to compliment you in that really beautiful way as well. That can be really scary for people, but I think that it's a really beautiful feeling. I don't feel the need to be in a relationship right now because I'm enjoying myself so much. Um, it doesn't mean that I will never be in a relationship again. It just means that right now, like, I'm really enjoying me. And that's a really, really good feeling. Um, and I want more people to be able to feel that. It really is a very freeing feeling. You tend to feel like what you do and who you are matters a lot. And you don't just give away that power to anybody. You wait until you find somebody who is really worth honoring in the same way that you honor yourself. Yeah, it's self-love is probably one of the things that we all struggle with the most. But when you find it, it's the most freeing thing that you can possibly imagine. And I'm not going to say that I don't go through moments of doubt or self-hatred or pity or any of that, because it's still an ongoing struggle. But um, all in all, I really do love myself. And I would highly recommend that if you're not on that journey yet and you aren't making steps towards loving yourself, that you do something that makes you feel really, really good and convinces you of your own value, because I think we're all valuable. We just don't always know it yet. And when you come into yourself and you do realize how valuable you are, then you're really working from a place of power where you can be a lot more effective in the world and love far more deeply, because you have that foundation inside yourself first. So those are my thoughts about love. Cool. Anyways, let me know what you think, as always, and much love. Bye.